What up, everyone? DJ Anubis from the Metal Time Radio Podcast here with you today. Happy holidays to you all, and I hope you all have a great weekend and great food and everything else that is going to be happening this week. It's been a little while since I did a video. I know NECA's not here with me, but I'm trying to bust this out. I'm a little bit behind on some of the stuff that I've received lately. I was trying to wait for another vinyl to come in to add that into this, but unfortunately, it's not here yet. Still on its way. But I wanted to get this done. There's some stuff I want to talk about, just regarding with some versus episode that we did a while back. Also, just some stuff that's been happening with us here with the website, and of course, I'm going to show you some of the stuff I got. First and foremost, I don't know if we've mentioned this on the channel here. I know in our podcast we've talked about it. I've recently gotten a couple of tarantula spiders. I started out with a pumpkin patch spider that I was wanting. I was following Dave's Little Beasties, who's on YouTube and very good at information on how to care for them and the different species and whatnot. And even though I don't think he has a pumpkin patch himself, it's one of the better spiders for beginners. And so I ordered it, and I was assuming it was going to be about, this big, at least the size of my palm. What ended up happening is she's about yay big. She's a spiderling. So I have this 7-gallon enclosure that I had built for her, bioactive, everything else, and she's this big. So I can't put her in there. I could, but she'd get lost in there. I'd never find her, and I'd have to be able to keep an eye on her a little bit as far as feeding and everything else. So I have her in this like little petri dish type thing. But she seems like she's molting. I mean, she's doing okay. She's doing fine. But then I didn't want my 7-gallon enclosure to go to waste, because it may be a couple years before Patches is even full grown. So I bought a pink toe, beautiful spider, definitely young. She is about the size of this, so she's currently in her enclosure right now. Been doing good for a couple weeks. I had been trying to feed her like every other day, at least one cricket. They say you can feed her 2 or 3 crickets a week and she'll be fine, or even less. They don't necessarily need to eat like that much. However, Freya must have an appetite, because in my enclosure with the bioactive, I put in some springtails and isopods to keep it clean, make sure there's no diseases or mites. That's what their purpose is for. And I mean, you're thinking these isopods, which are like little roly polies, are like yay big, right? So they're about maybe that big, full grown. Well, I came home, or got up this morning, I should say. I was planning on feeding Freya, and lo and behold, she had grabbed an isopod. Like, she was so hungry that she decided she wanted to have an isopod. So I had a couple crickets left in my container that I bought the other day, and so I just threw them in there. Went out to get some more beer, because we're going to be doing our podcast for next week, today before the holiday weekend. So when I came back, she had already found one of the crickets and started eating that one. So there's still another live one running around somewhere, but she'll eventually get it, I'm sure. But like, I have not yet seen her actually hunt them down. Like, I've fed her through with tweezers. Like, she'll take it right from it when she's hungry. But this one, she hunted down a couple times. She's hunted down crickets, which is kind of cool. She spends a lot of time on the side of the glass and everything. She's basically a tree spider sort of tarantula, so she doesn't spend a lot of time on the ground. Very cool spider, very gentle. There's still, spiders in general are still not something you should be handling a lot. I know like a lot of people do like to hold them and let them crawl around on them, but most experienced tarantula keepers kind of like say no to that, even if they're not the most venomous of spiders. Just like, you don't do that. Freya would probably be okay, but she could bite you, as any spider could if they get nervous or whatever. So anyway, I thought that was cool. Maybe at some point I'll show some pictures of them. I don't know, I do another video and whatnot, so keep you up there. For Aaron Penn of Cult of Cinema, sir, I'm glad you got those 2 movies I sent you. I had the third one, Dog Soldiers, on the way. you should be getting that real soon because they've been giving me updates from the facilities of USPS. So hopefully you get that soon. I know you said you had a hard time getting that particular movie into your country of Canada. So hopefully that's coming in and I can at least say, hey, you got a copy, brother. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm going to jump into some of the stuff that I've gotten recently. First off, Dying Fetus had reissued their Purification Through Violence album on vinyl. And it was only limited to 500 copies. And so, actually, I had not really thought about buying this because, I buy so much shit as it is. So, I've got to keep Neko at bay in terms of being angry. However, she's like part of my problem, although I wouldn't call it a problem. I love her to death. She ended up ordering the vinyl for me as well. It came with a shirt. I don't have that on me right at this moment, but here is the vinyl, and it's fucking badass, dude. Like, haven't listened to it yet. It's Splatter edition, so fucking amazing. I'm really happy to play this and check it out. I've had it on DVD forever, but I got DVD, CD forever, DVD. Also, I did get a couple movies. I think one was from Umbrella, and I'm not sure. I think the other one might have come from Shout Factory. I'm not sure. And that first one is Suspiria. Now, we recently did a podcast on this a couple weeks ago, and I have one of the limited edition DVDs from like way back when I first met Neko, and I think she actually bought it for me, which was really cool of her to do. In that version, gave me like little cards that I'd shown on the podcast. At least when I posted on Facebook and stuff, I showed examples of what it was. It was like little still shots of the movie itself, which is limited. Again, like these aren't something that many people can get a hold of. Now this obviously has a lot of special features. It's a new 4K restoration, so there's a lot more bonus features in this than the one that I have initially. So at some point, Neko and I will sit down and actually watch this and maybe some of the extra stuff because we really love this film a lot, especially me, of course, being one of my all-time favorite films. This other movie, fucking, I don't know how or why or this is the good thing about Aaron Penn is that he guides you to websites that deal with a lot of DVDs and sometimes a lot of rare stuff. And it's not always cheap. Don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff that I've seen him go to, I look at their prices and I'm like, are you insane? I don't want to pay that. But I kind of get it. This particular movie, Neko and I were looking online at Amazon. And that's not always the best place. It's a good place sometimes to get stuff that you can really dig. But on the other hand, it's also outrageous. So this particular movie on there, like somebody was selling it for like $190. That's crazy. And I get it. This movie is from 1981. It's a rare thing. No one really talks about it. I didn't even discover it until maybe 2 years ago, off of YouTube, no less. But the minute I saw it, I was like, dude, this is something I really should own because it's unique. It stars Sam Neill and Isabel Adjani. It's called Possession. And we just watched this and discussed this in the last podcast we just posted up this week. So if you're interested in our thoughts on that, check it out. It's directed by Andrei Zulawski. And this features some special features as well with interviews with the director, featurettes. Same with the Suspiria. They have like international trailers and radio bites and stuff like that. So I do enjoy the fact that I was able to get this for far less than I paid at Amazon. And I'll say this is from Umbrella, and I paid maybe like 40 or 50 bucks. I think more around 40 bucks. It was well worth it compared to what somebody else was trying to get for it. So that was just maddening to me with that. One quick thing about Samurai and his Versus show, like a while back in October, we did a Versus with them, Neko and I. for, I think it was Dolls versus Child's Play. So it was like the whole killer doll thing. And, we all had great discussions, input, and advice on the movies and how we saw them. And I think Child's Play won pretty easily on that one. But an interesting thing about Dolls was Neko and I forget exactly what we were doing, but we'd come across the history of one of the dolls in the movie called Mr. Punch. I had not realized this was based off a real doll. That makes it super eerily crazy. Like I don't think anyone brought it up during the show. So when I found out this is like a doll from 16th century, it was like one of the earliest versions of, how they had to, like, if you think of Puppet Master and Toulon and what he was doing with the puppets fighting each other. Mr. Punch was one of the earliest ones in there. That's how it all became with him and dolls in general. So, if a lot of people knew this, great. I did not know this. I probably should have, but I just didn't. I didn't part of the research it or anything. So the fact that Mr. Punch actually has history there is nuts. It's crazy. All right, well, we're going to get into my review of this Shudder movie called The Strings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a trailer for you, and then we'll go and talk about it a little bit. It's not going to be a super long video. As I said, just trying to give you an update on what's going on. But anyway, we're going to play this trailer for you so you can check it out, just what I'm going to be talking about. So. Well, sorry about the no sound there. That was a big furbar on my part. I was kind of rushing to put this stuff together. I was hoping the sound would be there, so that's my fault. However, I will break down kind of what the movie's about. So basically, it stars Tegan Johnston, Jenna Schaefer, and April Almiro. And Tegan is actually an up-and-coming musical artist. So she actually is a singer, and she portrays Catherine, who's a singer in this movie. And I kind of went and looked at Tegan's other stuff on YouTube a little bit just to kind of get, because I don't know if I should get to the best part of this film as opposed to the negatives, but I guess I'll start with the positives. The atmosphere is really good. It's all done like in a cold, wintry place, and the synopsis is that Catherine is up and coming musician who is having separation issues with her boyfriend at the time. So she's taken off to go stay at her aunt's house, wherever that is. I forget the city, but she's basically just going to kind of like seclude herself, start writing more music, and just trying to get away from the world in general. And we see kind of like later on that she's, doing like an interview over the phone, and it's not going well because, they're asking her why. I guess initially she has like other band members and she's just kind of doing the writing on her own. So the interviewer and fans are probably like, why are you trying to change what's going and all this other stuff. So it doesn't really dive into it. It doesn't really explain why she's like isolate herself so much, but we know that she's just having a hard time dealing with the separation from the ex. And anyway, she sorry, she she has a friend named Grace, and I believe that's Jenna Schaefer's character, if I'm correct. Apologize if I'm wrong, but Grace is kind of the one that shoots all her promo shots. So Catherine's out there, and she's in front of this house. They go to this place where this supposedly haunting happened, where this guy killed his wife and then walked into the ocean and drowned himself. So they're at this house, and Grace is shooting all the still shots. She's doing like this kind of stuff going on to try to, I guess, promote when she releases her new record. So, but we also find out that Catherine has like a special interest in Grace as well, as vice versa. They like each other more than just friends. So we find that out a little bit later. Musically, the soundtrack is great. What it's kind of, if you like Chelsea Wolfe or Sarah McLachlan type stuff, the music in this that Tegan creates is really good. It's hard to kind of explain, but it's definitely along those lines. It does create good sound for the atmosphere and things, stuff like that for the movie itself. The negatives of this film are, I've seen this way too much, just in terms of how it's presented, and it's sort of like a ghost story, but then it's sort of like one losing her mind type movie. After a while, when Catherine's at this place at her aunt's, she starts obviously noticing paranormal events happening around her, and it's kind of weird because on one hand, you would think that she'd be a little more alarmed by it, but she also is presenting herself as who's a very skeptical of the afterlife and ghosts and stuff like that. So maybe in that respect, she's kind of like more curious than anything, but she doesn't ever really dive into any of the reasons why it's happening. She kind of chalks it up to her just losing her mind. That's how she kind of perceives it. She doesn't think she's actually seeing the stuff going on that she does. And it isn't until the end of the film that we kind of realize, oh, well, there is something a lot more to it. But one of the reviews I read that kind of explained it really well was saying that the movie does a nice job of setting up these very chilling and fearful events to get the audience on edge. And then all of a sudden it just flips back to where Catherine is like creating her music, and it's almost like, to put it bluntly, it's like getting a hand job and then not getting finished. It's basically how it is. So you're being set up and set up and set up, and then boom, nope, boom, nope. Keep getting denied that final release. So that was the best way to explain how the movie goes. Like it probably would work if it just allowed things to keep diving in, and it just doesn't do that. It just quickly edits to something else, and it like brings you back up from where you were. So even though the ending, with Grace and everything, like I don't really know how I feel about that, because again, it's something that I've seen 100 times before, sort of like it just, the movie spends too much time copying other types of movies doing the same thing, and it isn't really bringing anything new. That's why it's so shocking that like the music itself is like the best part of this. And maybe that was the whole point, I don't know, because this is Tegan Johnson's first time acting, so she's this real life up and coming artist. So maybe the whole idea with the director was to, who is the director here? Ryan Glover. Maybe the whole point was just to kind of showcase her. Maybe this was like a personal favor. I don't know. It's shot okay. I mean, it's fine in terms of like cinematography, but the story is just very weak. There isn't like a great supporting cast, and probably part of the problem is that we have no real backstory to the wife and husband who died early in the film, other than what happened. So we don't have any more information and all that. Nothing gets unfolded in that way, and then even the ending, after the tragic ending, we're back to Catherine performing. I'm like, okay, we're not gonna discuss this at all. Okay, that's fine. We can live with that. Now, again, I apologize for the lack of sound on the trailer, but one person, Jenny Kamadi from I for Film UK, reviewed this same movie, and she gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars and was pretty glowing about it. Now, I don't really get the hype that she has about it. Obviously, every movie is subjective, and if you go into it objectively, you can come out with a different interpretation or feeling about it. I'm not necessarily going to say I'm going to recommend this film. However, if you're a Shudder subscriber, check it out. Maybe, like I said, the soundtrack is awesome, and I like the whole cold atmosphere. Although I will say, like, it's kind of funny that as cold as it looks, you never see any breath out of her. So I don't know if this is all just like staging, because it all looks real. But it's hard for me to really be an expert on filmmaking, so I can't tell you exactly if that's just CGI effect or if she's actually in a place like that and it is cold, but you don't ever see her breath. Like the way that it looks, even at night, you would expect to see some sort of breath with the coldness. So a little strange. Not to mention, now granted, this is acting, so I give a lot of credit here for Tegan Johnson because two things. She's not afraid to get naked. And I'm not going to say this in a negative way. She's not your prototypical super thin model-esque looking actress or singer. Like, she's a little bit heavy, but she's still attractive. But the thing is, like, I'm glad that Glover didn't just settle on like the pretty face, so to speak. They gave her a real shot to do this film and carry it. And I thought for the most part she did a good job with that. I just think the lack of dialogue really throughout the whole film is, again, it's all focused on her, so that sort of makes some sense. But I did like the fact that Tegan wasn't afraid to show herself. She's very confident in who she is, both singer and, as far as doing screen work. I did not expect her to be nude. So props to her on that. That takes a lot of guts, especially when most actresses and actors don't care to do that. So again, if I had to rate it out of 5, I would say 2.5, maybe. The music really carries the film, and that's really the best part about it. But the film itself kind of just falls flat in terms of like structure. And yeah, so that's all I got for y'all today. Hopefully you enjoy at least a little bit of it. And whenever I get more shit in, and I know next week maybe we'll get back with Samurai and another verses. I know he had something planned this week before he realized it was Thanksgiving, and I think he kind of put it off till next week. So we'll see if we'll be on that or not. If not, we'll probably get up on another show here and there. I know that Aaron Pan of Cult of Cinema, he's getting ready to do his podcast or start it, and I want to be able to get us on there to talk with him on that a little bit. So there's a lot of plans and stuff coming up. I have some ideas I still need to pass along to a lot of those guys that I hadn't quite brought up to them yet. Eric, the Asian movie enthusiast, Aaron, Samurai, Derek from Flick Snacks and Knickknacks. I have something I want to do through this channel. I just have to be able to get in touch with them and get things sorted out, because even Tony the Dead and all them, and maybe I'll just do it here. And I'll just say, because I've had this idea strictly for Metal Tavern, and I want to do it through this particular channel, instead of like doing a call in on the podcast part, which is all audio. Because video has kind of like elevated people now to do all sorts of things. Like, we're just now diving into this. As far as I'm concerned, like, I hadn't really thought about doing YouTube stuff because I'm very new at this. So like, you just saw with the audio and the trailer, like, and you guys can find that on YouTube. Just look it up. Trust me. But watching what guys like Samurai and the rest of these guys do, it's very impressive in how they put together their shows and their intros and stuff. So the idea I have for all of you guys is I want to be able to do a video where I'm interviewing you, just you, the person, about your history, your shows, stuff like that. So for Aaron, Preston, Tony, Eric, etc., if you guys are down with this kind of thing, I mean, it's not something I'm going to rush out right away, but I do want to see if we can get together at some point so I can do an interview and just interview the person and how you became what you are on your YouTube channels and stuff. I think it'd be very interesting and very cool for people to kind of know a little bit of the history of said personalities that are on YouTube. So if you guys watch this, let me know. I will be tagging you when I release this on Facebook. So, all right, I'm not going to bore you anymore. Stay metal, motherfuckers, and we will see you next time.